Bet365. Info that you need for today's slate without all of the fluff. Over the next 30 minutes, my esteemed colleagues Simon Hunter, Chris Raybon, and the one and only Sean Koerner will try to convince me of their favorite player props, sides, and totals. We'll also talk a little Sunday Night Football and bring in Evan Abrams and Darren Rovell for a market report and some of the most critical trends that you need to know for today's slate. I do want to remind everyone to make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there, in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. At the bottom of the hour, also, we'll have Gilles Gallant, Brian Matthews, and Charlie Disturco. Who let Charlie on the show? Well, at least Gilles and Brian will give you some good touchdown prop info, best in the business, as you get ready to place your final wagers of the day. As I said earlier, we are sponsored by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boost with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Disclaimer, 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, or Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. Before we begin, a reminder, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. So let's get into our favorite player props of the day. Koerner, I know you were scrambling last minute to finalize which one you wanted to roll with. Where are we headed?
Yeah, so I'm going with Allen Robinson's longest reception today to be under 14.5 yards. First of all, only one of Robinson's 17 receptions this season has even cleared this number. And, a big part of that is he's being held back in this market specifically based on the type of targets he's getting in the slot. His average depth of target is just 6.5 yards downfield. But even more concerning is he's not being set up for many yards after the catch either. According to Next Gen Stats, he's only seeing an expected 1.9 yards after the catch. So that's, Matt Canada problem, I guess. He's not really scheming up Robinson to, have many good catch and runs. Plus, A-Rob just isn't as explosive since he's clearly past his prime. His opportunities will also take a hit with Deontay Johnson's return to the lineup. Robinson's still going to see his, slot snaps out of 11 personnel, but they're still going to mix in Calvin Austin, so he's going to be on the sideline for those snaps. He's probably being pushed out of 2 wide receiver sets, so he's just going to have limited opportunities to clear this number. I'm projecting the sweet spot for this market like 8 to 17 yards. Those are really the 10 key numbers, and we're getting 7 of those key numbers. So that's a big reason why I'm projecting him to stay under this around 64% of the time.
Well, you said Matt Canada doesn't really scheme up something. What does Matt Canada really scheme up other than sideline throws to George Pickens?
True.
True. I feel like that's the only thing that the Steelers offense is completely reliant on. Simon, what do you got for me?
Stuck out. I'm going to the buy low spot. Gabe Davis over receiving yards. I love buying guys after they've had a bad week. Last week he had 3 catches for 21 yards. That's a bad week for Gabe Davis. He's the kind of guy that he wants to take a target and take it the distance. And when you look at this Patriots team, what they like to do is they like to take away the number 1 receiver. So Stephon Diggs, he's been incredible this season. Belichick is going to go all in on just stopping him. And we've seen it this year. This is what their defensive format is. They take away the number 1 receiver. number 2 receivers, the other receivers really excel in these kind of matchups. So looking at this matchup, I really love that Gabe's under 40 now for as long as receiving yards. That's a one-play hit for him. He's the kind of guy that if he gets one right ball, he can go the distance with it. He can hit this in one play. So I love that it's so low. The public is totally off Gabe Davis. Everyone's on Stephon Diggs. I believe Stephon Diggs is one of the most bet props this week for touchdowns and yards. The public doesn't realize this is what the Patriots defense does. Tyreek Hill's worst game was against the Patriots. A.J. Brown's worst game was against the Patriots. This is kind of what their defense is set up to do, is to take away the number 1 receiver. So not shocking to see that he just literally just sends a safety over to that guy. So Diggs will have a corner on him, a safety over top. That leaves Gabe Davis on one-on-one and, take the top off. So I love this prop. He can hit this easy on his first catch.
Good stuff there. Raybon, what do you got for me?
Let's go Samaje Perine, under 13.5 receiving yards. He saw his playing time really go down in the first game with Javonte Williams back. He played just 17% of the snaps in that last game against Kansas City. There was some rumor that he got hurt, but that would have been late in the game, so he really wasn't a part of the game plan with Williams back and Jaleel McLaughlin, the rookie, playing really well. So I think those two will be the top 2 backs yet again. Denver is only a 1.5-point underdog in this spot, so it's not a massive, they're going to be behind by 20 and 30 and have to just throw. And he's lost a fumble in back-to-back games. So there's a chance he gets completely just benched, because that's kind of what we saw. He lost a fumble prior to that last Thursday night game and saw a season-low 17% of the snaps. So losing a fumble in back-to-back games, I'm not sure he sees the field much at all in this one. So going with the under 13.5 for Perine.
All right, this one for me to choose was very difficult. I've hosted the show before filling in for Chad because he takes vacations during football and I don't. But because I love a good Raybon and I, we do our Action Network podcast when we get into the playoffs. I love a good Perine prop. I also love fading anything Matt Canada related, but I'm going to roll with Simon here because I'm like most people. I'm just worried about my self-interest, and I bet trying to catch the falling knife with the Patriots here. And the Patriots are doing nothing well this year. Nothing. Not even special teams. They're one of the worst special teams in the NFL, except one thing. And at least they can still, and this is just a Bill Belichick staple, they can still take away your best weapon and best option. That's a staple of the Belichick defense. So I agree with you, Simon, that the game plan will be, hey, let's not let Stephon Diggs beat us. And I think that'll open up some opportunities for Gabe Davis against a Patriots secondary that's certainly not at full strength and playing up to their normal standards. So, Simon, rolling with you to kick things off, but like all three, if you're tailing along at home. All right, let's transition to convincing me on our favorite sides of the week. Sean, let's start with you.
So I'm going with Ravens -3. I know you probably won't take much convincing here, but I do think this is a good time to fade the 5-1 Lions. They've faced the 5th easiest schedule to date, including facing the Chiefs in week 1 when they were without both Travis Kelce and Chris Jones. They were also very lucky to, come away with that win, which has only inflated their public perception, so far this season. Detroit's going to be without David Montgomery. While, first-round pick Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously very talented, the Lions are certainly going to miss Montgomery on early downs, especially in this game where we could see some high wins. So it's going to put more on Goff's plate this game. And he's struggled throughout his career on the road, outdoors. So with the wind, that's going to make it even tougher. And on the other hand, I just think the Ravens are a good buy low team. They've dealt with a ton of injuries the first several weeks, especially on the offensive line. But, both Ronnie Stanley, Tyler Lindenbaum have returned. Morgan Moses, who missed week 5 with the shoulder injury, is back. He's not even on the injury report anymore. So this is the healthiest the offensive line has been all season. Plus, the Ravens stand out in our luck rankings as well. They're the unlucky team in this game with a luck ranking differential of 21, which is the 3rd biggest gap of the week, which is just more confirmation that the perception of both these teams could be off in both directions. So I think the Ravens should be more than -3 here, maybe -3.5. So I like the fact that we're getting the key number -3 here.
Yeah, I love this as well. Faded my Ravens. Admittedly, I'm a Ravens fan, but no problem fading them. I've faded them a couple times already this year. But look, if you look at what the quarterbacks Detroit has faced over the past 4 weeks, when you're talking about Jordan Love and a banged up Packers team, by the way, Bryce Young and a Panthers team that was playing without its entire secondary, Jordan Love, Desmond Ridder, and then last week they played Baker Mayfield. And if you watch that game, I don't even think this, luck rankings will capture this. There were multiple opportunities for Baker Mayfield to take advantage of that secondary, wide open touchdowns that he simply just missed. I think that this secondary is extremely vulnerable. They benefited from facing some really poor quarterbacks over the past month. And this Ravens offense is so close. You mentioned the injuries. They've had a couple games now to assimilate guys back into the lineup. They had some drop issues against Pittsburgh, red zone issues. I think they were just a little too conservative last week. But remember, this is a team that put up 28 against the Cleveland defense that no one is even able to get a first down against. So I agree. Lions are a real sleeper in the NFC, but I think this is a great spot to sell them. You're kind of getting them at the top of the market. So I agree here. Simon, where are you headed for your favorite side of the week?
My theme this week is just taking overs and a bunch of favorites, Stucky. So I'm going with the Bucks first half, actually. And this is a play off our guy, Evan. He's been giving out all year in our show, the favorites. Fade Ridder first half. In his career in the NFL, he is 0 for 10, and he's 0 for 12 dating back to college. So we're looking at a matchup here of, I do like Atlanta full game, but you're getting a really nice number on the Bucks for first half. And I do believe it is a Ridder problem. He comes out flat. And you could say, well, it's just been random. If you go back and watch the tape, he's clearly better in the second half. In the first half, he just makes stupid mistakes. Even in games where they had over 200 yards in the first half, he was only putting up 7 points. So it's clearly something that's real. And Evan every week is telling people to bet it. Now I'm telling you guys, you got to bet it. All right, I've just been betting this every week. It's like the Eagles last year. Eagles last year, first half, was literally free money all season. Right now, Fade and Ridder first half is free money. So I'm going to keep riding this trend until it breaks. Love the number here for this Bucks team. It's only a -0.5. Got to take it. So
I know that Raybon also agrees with you. He likes the Bucks today, but where are you going for your favorite side, Chris?
I got to go with the Chargers +6. I think it's up to now at against the Chiefs. And, this Charger team, they haven't lost by more than 3 points this year. They've only lost by 6 or more 3 times since the start of last season. That's 23 games, including that playoff game against the Jaguars. So this team, there's a lot of the defense is still shaky. It's been better since J.C. Jackson was traded. But really, Justin Herbert always going to keep you in a game. There's this Brandon Staley, the coach, sometimes makes risky decisions that hurt them. The defense makes a lot of mistakes, penalties and whatnot. But at the end of the day, this Charger team is almost never down more than a possession at the end of regulation. That's been true against the Chiefs. The last 4 meetings, the last 4 losses they've had against the Chiefs by 3, 3, 3, and 6, and the 6-point loss was in overtime. This Kansas City team just 14-27, 34% against the spread, when favored by more than a field goal since early November of 2020. Meanwhile, in his entire career, Justin Herbert, as an underdog of more than a field goal, 10-1 against the spread. Give me Chargers.
Yeah, like this one too. Thank you for the heads up. I just put a bet in. I'll put it in the app after this show. I've been waiting all week for the 6 to pop. So it looks like some sharper money came in on the Chiefs today, but I agree with you here. It's just like the perfect storm whenever these two teams meet. The Chargers are always going to charger. I think 20 of their past 25 games have been decided by one possession. It's going back to Philip Rivers. Like, what do you remember about those Chargers teams? Rivers has the ball, down 3, the minute to go. He's freaking out, trying to get everyone up to the line. And it's the same story now. And then the Chiefs really struggle to win by margin as a favorite. And they're also very good. There's 2 things here that could work in your favor at the end of the game. The Chiefs are really good at just running out the clock with a lead. Some teams, they're going to end up going into score, but the Chiefs are, hey, we're going to run out the clock. We're just going to methodically get first downs with Mahomes. And then if you need a back door, right, if you're down 10 late, if necessary, you have Justin Herbert, one of the better quarterbacks in the league, in that offense that you would trust more than most to go down and get you a touchdown, which has happened in this matchup before. Like all 3 of these again, but look, Koerner's playing to the crowd, playing to the host, and Ravens are my favorite bet of the weekend. So this was an easy choice. I'm riding with Koerner and the Baltimore Ravens. All right, good stuff there. We'll get to your favorite totals in a bit, but let's bring in Darren Rovell and Evan Abrams to get a market report and some of today's most noteworthy trends. Darren, let's start with you.
Hey, Stuck, how are we? All right, let's go to the most bet games. You guys had talked about the public. Obviously, thinks the Lions are the greatest thing since sliced bread. So Lions, Ravens, most bet game. Then Bills, Patriots. Again, the public. This is an obvious one. Patriots stink. Bills are worth it. And then Chargers, Chiefs, because a Chiefs game is always in the top three. Most bet teams, that Lions +3. They're 5-1 against the spread this year. Last 40 games, 70% cover rate, best in the NFL. Bills -7.5 and Eagles -3. Most bet overs, Lions, Ravens at 43. Baltimore 5-1 to the under this year, but as Koerner said, 19-mile-per-hour winds in that game. That is probably the biggest weather indication of the day. And 49ers, Vikings at 44, second biggest over. Minnesota's 5-1 to the under this year. Most bet unders, Browns, Colts 41, and Chargers, Chiefs 48. Wow, it seems like the public is saying that Patrick Mahomes doesn't go over every time. Kansas City this year 4-2 to the under, and in the Patrick Mahomes era at home, they are 30-25 at home to the under. Most bet underdogs outright, Lions, Dolphins, and Steelers. And most bet player props, Keontae Ingram under 35.5 rushing yards last week. He was the guy in that three-headed monster. Rashee Rice over 38.5 receiving yards, 72 receiving yards last week, but he's only gone over that number once. And Josh Jacobs over 23.5 receiving yards. He's had two games, one with 51, one with 81. Most bet anytime touchdown scorers, Latavius Murray, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Stephen Diggs. Ev, what do you got?
I just want to thank you for that Mahomes understat. I was waiting for it. I was going to use it, but I'm glad you got it. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this for a second. There's some really bad ATS teams right now in the bottom of the league. So hear me out. Denver, Carolina, New England, the Giants, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Chicago. So that is the bottom 7 teams in the NFL are a combined 5-34-4 against the spread this season. The rest of the NFL, 86-57. So just the bottom of the league, not covering any numbers, and all 7 of those teams not facing each other. So obviously New Orleans already played, and they lost on Thursday Night Football, but just some awful play at the bottom of the league. Here's a fun stat. So Stafford hasn't been able to hold a lead like in his entire career. He is 31-55-2 second half against the spread after leading at the half. It's like 25 games below 500. He hasn't covered in the regular season in that spot since before Christmas of 2021. 8 straight losses. And Lions, Rams, doesn't matter. 5-12 with the Rams, 26-43 with the Lions. And on the other way, he's actually 500, 46-47 second half ATS when he's trailing. So something about when he holds a lead. Let's see if it happens today against Pittsburgh. One more for you. Patrick Mahomes. He's faced 16 teams at home in Arrowhead who are under 500. He's 16-0 spread. So he gets a 16-0 straight up. Sorry. He gets a chance to extend that today against the Chargers. And then finally, a little bit of trivia for you, Stucky and Darren. So last 3 seasons, only one quarterback has 13 wins straight up as an underdog, most in the NFL. Name him. Who's the underdog king recently? 13 straight wins, underdog.
13 straight?
Oh, no, 13 in general. Sorry, straight up. Most in the NFL.
Darren, I think I know it, but Darren, do you want to guess? I think I know it, but I'll let if Darren wants to guess. No, Darren's just silent. All right,
he's got
I'm going to guess. I think you're going to go topical.
Jared Goff's the answer to everything, isn't it?
No, he might be up there, but I think you're going topical here, and you just mentioned the Saints. who lost as a favorite, I think it's Trevor Lawrence.
Nailed it. Nice job. Most underdog
Wow.
wins in the NFL last 3 seasons. He was 3-12 before that stretch. So he's been the king. Nice job, Stock.
Darren, I know you're riding high off your lock of the year yesterday, which for the
Hit
some of the people
ceremony.
out there don't know that he actually parlayed it with something that lost. But Darren, do you have what is your favorite bet today?
Dolphins. I would do money line, but Dolphins 2.5, 3. Love the Dolphins.
All right, good stuff there. Thank you, Evan and Darren, and good luck with all of your wagers today. Do want to remind everyone one final time, Convince Me is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boost with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Disclaimer, 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions and restrictions do apply. All right, let's bring the trio back in here and talk some totals. Our favorite over-under bets of the day that you'll try to convince me to take. Sean, let me throw it to you first.
Yeah, so I'm going with the Cardinals-Seahawks game under 44.5. I think there could be some sneaky value here on the under. You know, the Seahawks defense ranks first in DVOA against the run. They should be able to slow down the Cardinals offense. That's still without their top running back in James Koerner. And, you know, Seattle's defense ranks 24th in DVOA against the pass, but I think that's just a bit misleading considering all the injuries they've had in their secondary. You know, I think we should expect them to be better going forward. You know, Devin Witherspoon already looks like a stud. And he and Rick Woolen could become, you know, the top cornerback duo in the league very soon. This will only be the second game that Witherspoon, Woolen, and Jamal Adams have all played in. You know, another metric I think they're going to improve in on the defensive side is red zone touchdown percentage allowed. They've allowed a ridiculous 90% of red zone drives to result in a touchdown. That's not sustainable. I think we can expect that to at least regress towards the league average of 54%, which is going to cause, you know, the scoring in their games to plummet a bit. They should also benefit from the crowd noise at home here, as usual. But Scott Novak is the official for this game. The under's cashed 62% of the time in his game since 2020. One of his tendencies is to call false starts at a very high rate. He's one of the top 3 in false start calls year over year. So the Cardinals have committed the 3rd most false starts in the league this year. So playing at Lumen Field with that crowd noise, I think we're going to see a ton of false starts from them, which is going to slow down their offense even more. And, you know, on the other side, Seattle will obviously be able to move the ball against the Cardinals defense, especially with the run. But, you know, if this ends up being a run-heavy game plan for the Seahawks, I'll take it. It's going to help out the under, help shorten the game. Plus, DK Metcalf and 3 of the starting offensive linemen are all questionable for this game. So if a couple of those guys are ruled out, it'll only make me like the under here even more.
Yeah, I believe Carolina, when they went to Seattle earlier this year, the one time that their offense had a pulse with Andy Dalton behind center, I think they had 8 false starts in the game.
Yep.
Close to starts. An NFL record. So that can really, for an offense that isn't one of the top in the league, that can really hamper your drives and lead to a few more punts. Simon, what do you got for your favorite total?
Stuck staying with my theme of taking overs and favorites. Taking another over here. Denver, Green Bay, over 44.5, 45.5. Whatever number you can find. I love this total. And it's complete play on Denver has the worst defense I've ever seen. They really do. On film, everything I break down, they are horrible. Coaching-wise, scheme-wise, every week it's bad. And people, I think the general public are looking at them and are like, well, it looks like they figured things out, right? They held the Chiefs to 19 points on Thursday night last week. No, that was really more about the Chiefs, not really more about Denver. They were going up and down the field in this Denver defense. And looking at this matchup with Green Bay, I like LaFleur to scheme his team up to score points after their bye week. And then on the flip side, Russell Wilson has not really been the problem. I know he played terrible on Thursday night, but for the most part this season, he's been really playing really well in Sean Payton's offense. And people don't realize that Green Bay's defense, to me, they've been really been disappointed about this Green Bay team. Like, their defense has not been good. And people kept talking about their front four will be better. Their secondary should be better. They've had injuries, and they just have guys who really haven't shown up. So I think Denver's going to be able to move the ball pretty easily. I think same thing with Green Bay. After a bye week, they're going to be able to move the ball pretty easy. So I love this total has just dropped just because the public is all in on unders this week, Stuck. Like, it's probably the first time I can remember that almost all the games, all the money are on the unders. Like, they just completely over-adjusted. So I love a good ugly over. This, to me, is my favorite ugly over on the board this week. Give me that over, Denver and Green Bay.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of people are probably late to the party on some of these totals, and you're seeing, I think some books are reporting that they have more bets, number of tickets on unders in every game, which you would never see in the past, but unders are off to an historic start. I think they're a tad over 60% with some suppressed scoring. And I think that you're getting in some games some reduced numbers. The only thing I'd be worried about in this game is just, can Denver score after the opening scripts? Like, they've been great to start the game, and Sean Payton has great scripts, and then the offense goes into a shell, but the defense is still really bad, and they're not facing an elite defense in Green Bay. So I don't disagree with your sentiment that, I think that there's some value out there with some overs this week. Chris, you're sticking with your normal under theme. You like an under here. Where are you going?
I got to go with this Browns Colts under 40.5. I think this total should be under 40. I know there's been a lot of, people are expecting overs to bounce back and whatnot, but this Cleveland defense is number one in the league, number one against the pass, fourth against the rush, and they could get pressure. And Indianapolis has not faced a defense higher than 16th in pressure rate. Cleveland is top 6, and Minshew grades out dead last among quarterbacks under pressure this season. He's also going to be without his right tackle, Braden Smith, who grades out in the top 15. And on the other side, Indianapolis' defense has been mediocre, like right smack dab in the middle of the league. But their scheme plays right into, I think, an under, because I think Deshaun Watson and this Cleveland offense in general is going to struggle. Watson against teams that don't blitz, he's been really poor, and so has PJ Walker. Indianapolis blitzes the least in the league. Watson, 26 out of 37 quarterbacks this year when not blitzed. Last year, 42nd out of 43. And PJ Walker has been the worst quarterback when not blitzed if he has to come in the game. So they elevated him. So I think you're going to see Indianapolis kind of sit back in zone, keep eyes on the quarterback, not let him run too much. And I think both of these teams probably want to keep the ball on the ground just because of the defenses they're facing, the quarterback situations that they've been going through. So give me the under 40.5 in Browns Colts.
Yeah, I don't mind any of these totals. I'd be worried about I don't think Arizona's going to do much. I'd be worried about Seattle just putting up a huge number here. They've been unlucky on late downs too, and they're going up against a defense that doesn't get any pressure. They can't stop the run. So, the dam could just break there, as we saw last week against the Rams. And then I'm a bit worried about just that Broncos offense going into a shell, but don't mind going with some overs this week. But I'm going to go with Raybon here. I'm an equal opportunist. We went with Simon for the props, then Koerner for the side. I'm going to roll with Raybon in this total. This Browns defense still, I don't think, is getting enough respect in the market. And you mentioned it, offensive line injuries as well. Should be a ton of pressure. I think it's going to be a long day for this Colts offense. So I got to ride with my partner in crime from the Action Network podcast, Raybon, with the Browns under. All right, good stuff there. We have one final order of business. We're going to talk some Sunday night football and do a little draft. Quick market report here. Philly out from 2.5 to a 3-point favorite. I think that was on the heels of some good injury news for the Birds. Like 40% of bets, 28% of money on the Dolphins. So let's talk some Sunday night football. Koerner, what do you like here?
I'll take the Dolphins +3. The Eagles have been a pass funnel defense, and their secondary's banged up here. Avonte Maddox is still on the IR. Reed Blankenship and Bradley Roby have been ruled out for tonight. So that's just bad timing facing, the elite Dolphins passing attack. So even if the Eagles were to build a lead here, I'd always be worried about the Dolphins coming back. So I'll take now that it's up to the key number of 3, I'll take the Dolphins in what should be a close back and forth game.
Bradley Roby being out, is that a bad or a good thing?
Yeah, that's questionable, right? But they are pretty thin. I would say Blankenship is obviously a huge loss, though.
Simon, what do you got?
Yeah, going with the Eagles. We've seen this number go up all week, and I think you're right, Stuck. I think it is based off the injury news and the fact that the Eagles are getting such key guys back, and Carter, Lane Johnson are good to go. So looking at this matchup, it's just a nice spot to back the Eagles. They just had an embarrassing loss against the Jets. Hurts had a really bad game, ton of turnovers. He's at home now. And that's me and Chad talk all the time on our show. Fade Hurts on the road, but at home, stay away. The man is unbelievable at home. He's 14-1, his last 15 straight up at home. This number was under a field goal. It's when I really loved it. Still love it at -3. And it's just simply fading a Miami team that they're really talented. They're incredible. But I think the story might be they just beat up on bad teams. So this is a huge prove-it game for Mike McDaniels, this offense, against an Eagles team at home, Sunday night in the throwback unis. It's hard for me not to take the Eagles here. So it is one of those games where you kind of need to just look at the matchup. Don't overthink it. Miami is really talented, but I still have a lot of questions about Miami's defense. So even if the Eagles are down in this game, it's just the same feeling Sean had with this Miami's offense I have with the Eagles offense, where it's like, whoever has the ball last, it feels like that's who's going to win the game. So I feel good taking the Eagles here at -3.
Is this head or heart, Homer Simon?
I gave out the Jets money line last week, Chad. I mean, it's stuck. So let the record show I am not
Chad.
value.
Calling me Chad. I take back selecting your player prop. I gotta change that back. Raybon, what do you like here?
It's a term of endearment.
Well, Stuck. I do think Miami is the right side. More so, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, first of all, in this game, because I think it could go a lot of different ways. If the Eagles can get a lead, if they win, if Miami takes the ball first, or if Miami defers, and the Eagles get the ball first, if they get a lead, I think, this game could be a lower scoring game. I think it would be, if they could kind of shorten it, limit the possessions. But then if Miami can get a lead, then I start to worry about the Eagles a little bit. I still don't think Hurts is reading things great. I think they're feeling the loss of, their coordinators on both sides of the ball. I just can't get to the Eagles number, to back them. Usually you would want to kind of back a team coming off an embarrassing loss, and Miami's riding high, but I can't get to the number. But I can't take the Miami spread because Rovell likes it. So got to go Miami money line here. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I guess I got to break the tie. And I'd go, now that it's out to 3, I would go with Miami. It's under 3. I wouldn't fault anyone for taking Philly, but now that it's at a key number, you mentioned it. This is a really fascinating matchup. It's like explosiveness versus efficient, methodical drives, and how many can the Eagles have, right? And just wear down that Miami defense. There also might be some red zone regression that works in the favor of the Eagles. The Eagles haven't been great in the red zone. You'd think they would be with how they can get short yardage and run the ball. And the Dolphins have been just a machine in the red zone. And they should be really good there, but maybe they come back down to earth a little bit. But, they can attack the Eagles' middle of the field. That's the weakness of this Eagles defense. And with some of the injuries back there, Miami's offense should have success. It's just, can Philly turn those long, methodical drives into sixes? I think this should be a really good game. Fascinating matchup. And now that it's at the key number of 3, I think it's Miami or nothing. But finally, this is like a primetime game that everyone can get behind and get excited for after some lackluster primetime matchups this week. But thank you to Chris, Sean, and Simon for joining me, making my job easier, filling in for Chad. Good luck on all of your wagers today, and thanks for all of the info. One final reminder, make sure you subscribe and subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. It really helps us out. Make sure, if you haven't already, to download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. And now it's time to throw it to the guys for the touchdown show. Cheers.
Thank you, Chad, and the whole Kavitsky crew, and welcome to week 7 of the Touchdown Show on the Action Network, presented by Bet365. I'm Gilles Gallant. I'm joined every week by Charlie Disturco and Brian Matthews, a.k.a. the B-Mat. Now, guys, 6 teams on bye for week 7, so we've got less games to choose from for touchdown scores, and touchdown scoring in general has been down. Right now, we're seeing totals, only one game that has a total over 45. The positive spin, though, is that we do have a few decent matchups today. We've got Lions, Ravens, Chargers, Chiefs, and of course, Sunday Night Football, Dolphins, Eagles. I think that's the game of the week. Charlie, last week we got stuck with a 14-9 I have no other way to describe it. It was a snoozer with Giants, Bills. Please tell the folks at home, are we going to see more touchdowns this week for Sunday Night Football?
I mean, listen, you have to hope so, with two of the most dynamic offenses in football squaring off with not so great defenses. I think there's a lot of scoring that's going to come out of this game. I think it's finally that Sunday night prime time must-watch TV that we want to enjoy at the end of our day of all entire day of football. So, of course, we'll be breaking down our favorite picks. I have a couple long shots that I do like. Last week we got unlucky with Tyrod Taylor not, punching that in at the 1 yard line. But
yeah, so 2 teams that are 5-1. It's definitely going to be a matchup that is must-see. Now, Brian, another thing that is must-see is some of the picks that you put in our Action app. Earlier this week, you put in a bet on Austin Eckler, and I saw the touchdown odds around plus 130, and I think we both had the same reaction of, how is this at plus 130? What I wanted to just remind people of is you're going to be putting in touchdown bets on the Action app throughout the week that may not necessarily be on the touchdown show.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously I'll have the shows that I pick here. Look, love the shows, love the structure that we've got. But as the week goes on, like you said, early in the week, some of these odds roll out that just don't make a lot of sense. Like if you see Austin Eckler at plus 130, I think my write-up would go something like, it doesn't need much explanation. If you see it at plus 130, take it. Like, it's kind of that simple. So yeah, follow me at the B-Man over in the Action Network, getting picks in early in the week too.
Absolutely. And make sure to set notifications as well, because when he puts in that pick, you'll get a notification on your phone saying that he had just bet Austin Eckler at plus 130. So that'll give you that boost to be able to just want to get out there and go make that bet. So here's how the show works today. We're going to start off with our favorite touchdown bet of the week. We've got a squad pick that we really like, a collab bet that we've all agreed that we think is our favorite bet of the week. We'll also have some spicy picks, some long shot bets. We're going to preview Sunday Night Football as well. And make sure to stick around, because after we give out all of our picks, we're also going to reveal our special anytime touchdown boosted parlay from Bet365. It's no gimmicks. It's just some boosted odds on some awesome players. And the touchdown show is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only, or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or in Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. All right, gentlemen, let's get started. Best bet of the week. I'm going to get us going right now with Chargers Chiefs. I'm going right to a guy who, for my money, is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. We are going to Keenan Allen to score a touchdown in this AFC West matchup. So I think sometimes we kind of forget about how good Keenan Allen was, because for the most of last year, he was hurt. He missed 7 games in and out of the lineup because of injury. But this year, he's right back to being elite, 5th in the NFL in catches, 4th in the NFL in receiving touchdowns. He's got 6 targets inside the 10-yard line. That's 3rd in the NFL behind Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams. We'll talk about Devontae here a little bit more in the show. But my favorite part about Keenan Allen is the unpredictability of the way that the Chargers use him. They don't just stick him on the outside. He plays all around on the field. He'll be in the slot. He'll be outside. Sometimes he might even take a carry. Sometimes he might even throw the ball to Mike Williams. You don't know what he's going to do when he's on the field. And this Chiefs secondary is pretty good, but more good against outside wide receivers. They've really struggled to contain wide receivers that are in motion. They've allowed 5 touchdowns to wide receivers this year, and 4 of those touchdowns were to wide receivers that were in motion at the line of scrimmage. So Keenan Allen, for me, at plus 155 is my best bet of week 7. Now, I kind of alluded to Charlie's pick, and I apologize about that. I'm not really a spoiler guy, but at the same time, I do think we need to talk about this epic quarterback battle that's going to happen between the Chicago Bears and Las Vegas Raiders. Charlie, please take us through what is your best bet of week 7.
Yeah, Brian Hoyer getting the start for the Vegas Raiders. And as you alluded to, I like Davante Adams here. I got him at plus 165. I believe the best number out right now is plus 150. Still love it there. I think he should be closer to the 1s than he is the 2s. Listen, we saw last week, frustration equals production. And Davante Adams was one upset guy. So what do you do with your star receiver when he's upset? You feed him the football. And what better matchup than against the Bears secondary that ranks 30th in passing DVOA? Yep. This is a smash matchup for Adams. You mentioned just the amount of red zone targets that he gets. He's tied for first in the entire NFL in red zone targets, top 3 inside the 10-yard line. And he gets a lot of targets, especially with backup quarterbacks, because he's, the best receiver on the field. So Davante Adams also on a 3-game touchdown drought, which is, something that I don't know we have said since I believe the last time he went 4+ was 2019. So I like him getting right here, plus 150 against his Bears secondary, 165, whatever the best number is out there, is just way too high. I love Davante Adams to get right here. He's going to break his drought. The last time he went 3 without scoring, he scored 2 the following week. So give me Davante Adams to have a breakout game, or I guess a dominant game.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters who the quarterback is. Last year, he had 10 touchdowns in 10 games and had multi-games with 2 touchdowns or more, especially the fact that he's leading the NFL in targets inside the 10. I don't think it matters if it's Jimmy G, Brian Hoyer. I mean, Josh McDaniels will be out there. He's going to be throwing it to Davante Adams, So I think that's a solid bet. That's a great way to start off week 7 with Davante Adams and Keenan Allen. Now, let's move over to this Browns-Colts game. Brian, you're a Browns fan. No shame, and they look pretty good this year. But at the same time, their running game has always been elite, especially over the last few years with this offensive line. Are we going back to that for week 7?
Yes, we are. So initially the pick was going to be Kareem Hunt. Mm-hmm. Then I pivoted to Austin Eckler. Those odds moved down a bit. So then, we get the report that Kareem Hunt might not play. And it makes too much sense. Deion Jackson was activated off the practice squad, and if you want to get crazy, there's kind of the, former Colt revenge narrative there, right? But look, I just feel like today's one of those days. Deshaun Watson is back. I feel like the Browns, as they always do, are going to lean on the ground game heavy. I feel like Kareem Hunt, I just get the feeling he doesn't play today. And even if he does play, he's got to go through pregame warmups. So I'd still think that Jerome Ford would see a, kind of the bulk of the carries. But look, this guy's top 10 in missed tackle rate. He's very talented. And when you've got Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio, and that offensive line in front of you, where the Browns are just known for pounding the football. Like, that's what they do. So I think this is a great matchup. I mean, obviously, you look at the projected point total and you're like, oh, okay. But, it's the Browns. They're going to run the ball. I think we, getting a great price at plus 148 here for Jerome Ford, and the chance that Kareem Hunt doesn't play. And the good thing, even if he does play, I still like the pick.
Yeah, I mean, at plus 140 with or without Kareem Hunt, this is a solid bet, especially because if you look at the history of the way that this Browns offense is with Kevin Stefanski, both backs get a ton of work. Even with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt was getting 15 to 20 red zone carries in a year. Jerome Ford is still running back 1 on this offense. So the fact that you're getting it at plus 140 against a Colts defense that I don't think is very, very good. I mean, they're a little bit better against the run, but this offensive line, I think, can ground and pound them. So now, one of the things we like to talk about, Brian, is your touchdown tiers that you publish on the actionnetwork.com, and where a guy like Austin Eckler would be like in tier 1. Where did Jerome Ford fall this week, with or without Kareem Hunt? Was it just outside of tier 1, or was he still in the top tier?
So he was tier 2. And if Kareem Hunt is out, I'd move him into tier 1. I just think that, his share of the carries is going to be too high, and that would definitely put him in a better spot. But yeah, I've got him in tier 2, until I learn more about Kareem Hunt. But yeah, I think he's got a solid shot. Again, the Browns are running the football at a high rate. They do it very well. That is their identity. So I'm hoping Ford takes off today.
Absolutely. All right. So you can check out his touchdown tiers, like I said, at the Action Network. But gentlemen, let's move on to a fun segment here. This is something that we generally don't do. Usually when we do the show, it's I've got 3 picks, Charlie's got 3. This is one of those times where if you're ever in a group thread or a text chain with people and somebody suggests an idea and all people immediately light up and say, I had the same idea, we have to put that bet in. So this week we have done a collab bet on a specific player that we all love. It's the squad collab of the week. 3 dudes, 1 cup. We are going for Cooper Kupp anytime touchdown at plus 120. We're each putting 1 unit on Cooper Kupp to score against the Steelers today. So Cooper Kupp, let's break it down very quickly. 24 touchdowns in 28 regular season games since Matt Stafford has become the quarterback. In 2 games, he already has 4 red zone targets. And one of the things that I track the touchdown odds for every single player in the NFL, and I've tracked it since 2020. And one of the things I wanted to look at is since the start of 2021, when Stafford came onto this team, Kupp has had plus odds to score a touchdown in 5 of those 28 regular season games. He has scored in 3 of them. He got hurt in the 4th one. And the 5th one was his first game back this year versus the Eagles, a pretty tough matchup. Well, he finished with 8 catches, 12 targets, and 118 receiving yards. The man is a robot as far as being a receiver. And now we're facing a Steelers team that plays a ton of man coverage. Honestly, I wouldn't even really care if they were facing the Niners. I don't really care the matchup. Cooper Kupp at plus 120. We have to bet this. Charlie, why were you so excited as well to want to bet on Cooper Kupp in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to what we talk about in our group chat and what we said last week and what we said about Eckler this week. It's when you see that plus money in front of some of these guys, it's just absurd. It doesn't matter the matchup for Cooper Kupp. The fact that he's plus 120 in what is actually a good matchup too is just, pretty eye-opening and something that why we kind of all hop together. I think it's just, it comes down to the point of like the line should be, in the negative. So at this price, I love it. I know when you guys were all talking about it, you guys got me going. And I was like, you know what? I'm in. All 3 of us, the 3 dudes, 1 cup all together. So I love this play.
Well, Brian, last week you used the term you were pot committed, I guess, with a Cooper Kupp touchdown, and he did come through for you. So I can't imagine it took much twisting of your arm to want to get on a Cooper Kupp collab.
No, not at all. I mean, all the points that you and Charlie have already brought up, but then you look back at the Steelers and, I think people are kind of thinking this is like the Steelers defense of a different year. It's at least this price, because you look back at wide receiver ones this year, versus Steelers, Brandon Ayuk, 100 plus 2 touchdowns, Nico Collins, 130 plus 2 touchdowns, Devontae Adams, 150 plus 2 touchdowns. I think the Amari Cooper, I think it was 90 yards. Marquise Flowers was the worst performance, and he had 73. So, look, they get shredded by wide receiver ones. And like you said, it's a robot. It's Cooper Kupp. So when you see it at plus 120, it's an auto bet. Set it and forget it.
Perfect. All right. So that is the collab pick of the week. We're all betting Cooper Kupp anytime touchdown. I am still seeing some plus 120s out there. So grab that while you can at plus odds. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about Sunday Night Football. Let's talk about this high-profile matchup. We've got Dolphins-Eagles. They're both 5-1. We're playing in Philadelphia tonight with a total of 52, easily the highest total of the week. Let's look at the touchdown odds from Bet365 on who could score this in this matchup. So we've got Raheem Mostert, who leads the NFL in touchdowns at the top of the list. He's at minus 138. Then you've got Jalen Hurts at minus 120. Tyreek Hill at minus 105. That sums up the minus odds players. Then you start to get into the plus odds with A.J. Brown, DeAndre Swift, both at plus 110 for the Eagles. Then you start to see it increase up to Jalen Waddle at plus 150, and Devontae Smith rounds out at plus 150 as well. Dallas Goedert rounds out the top 8 at plus 200. Charlie, why don't you kick us off? Who do you like in this matchup, and who do you want to bet for a touchdown score in Dolphins-Eagles?
Yeah. First, just obviously, I think this could be a high-scoring game. So I think that you wanting to go with some of the stars like Tyreek Hill, more than okay with. But the guy that I like the most is probably Jalen Waddle here. Yeah. I think that people are forgetting just how dominant Waddle is. Over the last 2 weeks, he's scored in each of them. I think this is a breakout game. I took his receiving yards over. I'm going to be dabbling on his touchdown. He plays against against zone coverage, he absolutely shreds, and that is exactly what they're going to get against the Eagles. And rather than man, you could just see his yards per route run numbers and his target percentage just kind of skyrockets up against that zone coverage. So I like Waddle at that plus 150 to 200 number. And then, of course, every week I like to take a long shot in these Sunday nights.
For sure.
I think Durham Smythe, the Eagles are dead last in DVOA to the tight end position.
Yes,
so I think Durham is potentially a great option. And especially because of Raheem Mostert, I think that they could overcommit to stopping the run. And what does that leave Durham Smythe? He's out to just a little play action, dink and dunk into the end zone. No Reed Blankenship this week. So I think there's a lot of signs that kind of point toward a benefit for Smythe in that middle of the field. And then maybe even a little Braxton Berrios end around, for the New York Jet fans out there. But I like both of those guys, Berrios and Smythe, at like the 5-6 to 1 numbers. Waddle is my favorite, though. I think he's going to have a breakout game.
Yeah, Waddle is starting to heat up. He's got 19 targets over the last 2 games. He's scored them both. And if Tyreek is as dominant as ever and is commanding a ton of attention, that means Waddle, or even like a long shot like Cedric Wilson or Braxton Berrios. I mean, we saw Robbie Chosen catch a touchdown a couple weeks against Denver. Chase Claypool's on the team now. So again, there's a lot of different long shot options for the Dolphins. For Philadelphia, though, I think the same thing. I think there's some long shot opportunity, especially because right now when you see some of the odds out there for Devontae Smith, I'm seeing odds as high as plus 220 in some other spots right now. And he's been limited in practice all week. So as a result, Olamide Zaccheaus right now, I'm seeing around 5 to 1. He caught a touchdown a couple weeks ago. He's somebody that would probably slot into a slot role, especially because Brown is only plus 110. But that's kind of where I would be looking. Smythe, I think, is another solid option. BMAT, if you're betting touchdown, are you looking at just AJ Brown, or is there somebody else on the list that tickles you?
No, I honestly, I like Dallas Goedert. And can we not forget? I almost feel bad. I did not pick a tight end today on National Tight End Day. I mean, did we have no tight? Actually, I can change that. So, look, I like Dallas Goedert. I think that's a pick. I was going to say, look, Devontae Smith at plus 200. We know how talented he is. It's only a matter of time. And, it's like, if I bet him this week, though, and he doesn't score, I may be done for a little bit. But, I do like the matchup. And, hey, who knows? If they get inside the 5-10 yard line, could we see a fade to Julio Jones? I mean, who knows? I mean, that's kind of where we're at. So
for sure. Yeah, so I'm going to have a touchdown score video coming out a little bit later. I ended up, just as a preview, I ended up going with Jalen Hurts for 2 touchdowns, got it around plus 450. Just looking at this matchup as far as run defense and the predictability of this Eagles offense, Hurts for 2 touchdowns, if you're going to have a total where you're looking at maybe a back and forth shootout, I think Hurts for 2 is probably one of the more solid looks you can look at for the Eagles. All right, let's look at some of our spicy touchdown bets. So what this is ones where, we're going to go a little bit outside the box. We're going to try some guys that are maybe plus 500 or more. So Charlie, why don't you kick us off? You're looking right now at this, at the Giants.
Yeah. So I've gone to this guy multiple times before, and it has not worked out yet. And that's because the New York Giants have just 1 offensive touchdown in their last 4 games. But I'm going to split up my half-unit spicy bet on a quarter each. 2 receivers for the New York Giants, Wan'Dale Robinson, plus 600, Jalen Hyatt, plus 750. I believe the odds have come down a bit on both of them for good reason. Listen, I think the one thing and takeaway that we can take from last week's game against the Bills, even though they didn't score, is that they were able to move the ball downfield. And that's something we didn't see with Daniel Jones under center. And Tyrod Taylor, T-Mobile, is actually able to make scrambles, make these short throws. He has a great deep ball as well, which plays perfectly into Jalen Hyatt. We've seen Hyatt kind of step up into a role, a bigger role. Now, does he, go back in his snap count? Who knows? But last week he played 73% of snaps, which is his career best. He had 4 targets, in which his previous high was 2 in his rookie season. So I like Hyatt to get right here. The Commanders, they are 27th in passing DVOA, 24th on deep balls. And where they kind of specialize is on running backs. They're 6th in DVOA against passes to running backs, 14th against the rush, just in general. So listen, Saquon Barkley is obviously going to command all the attention. That's why I like taking a guy like Hyatt on the deep ball, or Wan'Dale, who had 8 receptions last week. You could tell that when he gets on the field, the Giants look to put the ball in his hands. I think that's something that they should realize around the red zone in particular, is that he's such a gadget guy, can do the end arounds, can do short passes. So I like taking a stab at both of them here. I think it's great value. I think the Giants finally get back on the board, start scoring. So under T-Mobile, let's go Wan'Dale Robinson and Jaleel Hyatt to find the end zone.
I love these angles, Charlie, because especially you're playing to your quarterback. Like the quarterback, Tyrod is all about the short throws or the deep bombs. And so you essentially took the two Giants that have the leader in ADOT in Jaleel Hyatt and the one who has the lowest ADOT in Wan'Dale Robinson. So that's exactly what you get, the short and the long options here, and both at nice long shot odds. All right, Brian, let's talk about this Raiders-Bears game again, because we've been talking about this guy, and I think now this might be able to fix whether or not we're going to have a tight end for National Tight End Day.
Yeah, so I almost went like full tight ends, right? Like all three picks. But look, this is a guy that I don't know why I keep picking Notre Dame tight ends. It just dawned on me as my long shot picks. Like, what am I doing here? But look, I love this matchup for Michael Mayer at plus 500. Like at the beginning of the year, the Raiders pretended like the tight end didn't exist, right? Like between him and Austin Hooper, there was just nothing there. Then the last 2 weeks, especially last week, we see him go in and play 81% of the snaps. Finishes the game with 5 receptions for 75 yards on 6 targets. So look, the guy was drafted high out of Notre Dame. He's got talent. Now they're finally realizing, hey, we can use him. And he also had 2 red zone targets last week. So I don't want that to be overlooked. And look, we all know, and I love Devontae. I'm also on Devontae Adams too, but we know when a team gives someone extra attention, a lot of times it's the guys underneath that benefit. So, I just think at plus 500, this is, the week that I think we could see it. And when you've got Brian Hoyer in at quarterback or potentially Aiden Hutchinson, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I think the tight end could become, a little bit more friendly option to that quarterback. So when I look at this, I just think, all right, it's a great matchup. You're talking about the Bears, who are bottom 5 against tight ends. I think they're bottom 5 against most positions, but look, it is a great matchup. And I don't get the odds. I probably would have played this at plus 350, plus 400. I get that this isn't expected to be a barn burner, but look, tight ends in the end zone, they seem to get some extra looks. So look, I'm gonna split or put a half unit, on Michael Mayer at plus 500 and hope he finds pay dirt today.
For sure. And tight ends this year seems to be the story as far as impact. Rookie tight ends like Sam Laporta, Michael Mayer, Luke Musgrave in Green Bay. The fact that Dalton Kincaid was the only tight end taken in the first round, and he's probably made the least impact of that group that I've said. So, a lot of teams are really banking on that 11 personnel and having that second tight end out there. So again, solid odds for you to be able to find them at 5-1. All right, I'm going to go to a game that has one of the lowest totals of the week between Tampa Bay and Atlanta. And I'm looking right now at the Falcons. And so for anybody who watches the show, typically I like to take a couple long shots, take a quarter unit here, a quarter unit there. We've hit Tommy Tremble a couple weeks ago, so we're going to try this again for the Falcons. But what we're doing is we're going to take Kadarrell Hodge, who was around 14-1, and Michael Pruitt at 17-1. We're going to put a quarter unit on each. So the reason why we're taking these two is so both slot receiver and slot tight end, that was really the Achilles heel for this Bucs defense last year. And it still has been present, but just the touchdowns aren't there. This year, they still rank bottom 10 in catches to the slot. Just the touchdown hasn't happened yet. And the two guys that we like here, the reason why we want Kadarrell Hodge and Michael Pruitt, is if you look at the way that these teams played each other last year, and also just what you've seen from this Bucs defense, is that the Falcons used Olamide Zaccheaus in that slot receiver role versus the Bucs, and he scored in both games. Michael Pruitt even scored in Week 18 last year against this Bucs defense. And Hodge is now playing more snaps than Mac Hollins or Scotty Miller over the last 3 games. And right now, the big happiness about this team is, oh, look at how Jonnu Smith is playing. Look how Kyle Pitts is playing. Those guys, do you know that they have only combined for 6 touchdowns total since the start of the 2021 season? Michael Pruitt has 7 touchdowns by himself in that same stretch. And right now they're playing pretty much an equal amount of snaps. He's got 2 red zone targets already this year. Michael Pruitt only needs 1 target in the end zone, and this is going in. So for me, spicy picks, Kadarrell Hodge, slot receiver for the Falcons, and Michael Pruitt, tight end 3 on this team. I think one of them at least is scoring. Maybe we could even get both, like what happened in Week 18 last year against the Bucs. So those are our spicy picks. Now we're going to move on to the Bet365 Anytime Touchdown Boosted Parlay. And now these are 2 guys that we think have a great chance to score, and Bet365 did us a solid and boosted their odds for the parlay. So the 2 guys that we're taking are Stephon Diggs And Travis Kelce, that's right, Travis Kelce made it on the boost again, not because of who he's dating, but because of how good of a football player he is. So the parlay odds were plus 260, and we have it now boosted up to plus 285. Stephon Diggs, just for historical context, when he goes to Foxborough, he balls out. 6 touchdowns in his last 3 games playing in New England. Has scored in 3 straight games against them. He's 5th in the NFL in red zone targets. He's got double-digit targets in 4 or 6 games. And the last time Travis Kelce played the Chargers, he scored 3 touchdowns. So, yeah. I mean, Chargers Chief is expected to be a shootout. Honestly, guys, we don't need Taylor Swift puns, I believe, to sell this boost. But Charlie, tell me, are you going to be betting this boost with everything you got?
Of course. Listen, anytime you can get Travis Kelce in a boost, it's always a good look. He's Patrick Mahomes' safety blanket. I think he's going to find the end zone this week. I think he could even get multiple, as you've said, that he's had 3 last time he played. And then, of course, Diggs. It feels like the Bills, it doesn't matter. James Cook, it doesn't matter how many yards he gets. It just seems like right in the red zone, Josh Allen is going to his guy, and that guy is always open, and it's somehow always Stephon Diggs. So
squeaky wheels, man.
Yeah. Listen, you could, these are 2 guys that I think are matchup proof. It doesn't matter who they're playing. You put them together, you get a nice little boost. It's a great payout. So I love this one this week.
And Brian, going back to your tiers, I'd imagine at least Kelce was probably in tier 1. Did Diggs also make your first tier?
Yeah, I mean they're both tier 1. Yeah, I think they're a total of. I mean, I think they're a total of 11 or 12 guys total. So it's not like 20 or 30 guys we're talking here. But yeah, both of them are tier 1. I mean, Diggs' history is insane. Not just that, the volume is outrageous that he's seeing right now. And if he doesn't see a target on a drive, he is going to, on the sideline,
his ass up.
Yeah, and then the next drive, he's getting about 4 or 5. So it's he knows how to get things done, right? Receivers know what they're doing, and it's like Devontae Adams. It's another squeaky wheel narrative, like feed the guy, right? So yeah, definitely betting this boost. Love both of these guys, both tier 1, so it's a no-brainer.
All right, so that's the Bet365 anytime touchdown boosted parlay of Stephon Diggs and Travis Kelce. They are parlayed. They were originally plus 260, and Bet365 gave us a solid, boosted it up to plus 285. And the touchdown show is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. All right, gentlemen, that's all for today. 4 picks from me, 4 picks from Charlie. We've got 3 picks from Brian. We've got the spicy pick collabs. We got it all this week, guys. So we're going to see everybody next Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern as part of the Action Network Power Hour. If you misconvince me, you can rewatch the show or download the Action Network app. You can get all of our picks in one place. You can also check out all of our Week 7 touchdown bets in the Action app. I want to thank everybody for watching the Touchdown Show presented by Bet365. Bon chance.